Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are going deep on someone who, well, let's be honest, is always in the headlines, Elon Musk.
It feels like there's a new Elon Musk's story every day.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up. So for today's deep dive, we're using excerpts from his Wikipedia page as of today, October 30th, 2024.
Of course, gotta mention the date because, as we all know, Wikipedia is like this constantly evolving beast.
That's right, always changing. So to kick things off, let's go back to the beginning. Musk's early life in South Africa.
I think a lot of people might be surprised to learn that his family was actually quite wealthy.
Yeah, there's this interesting contrast, right? Because even though they had money, there were also some pretty serious challenges, like his parents divorcing in 1980,
And after the divorce, he decided to live with his father.
a decision he later said he regretted.
There are even accounts of his father berating him after this really brutal bullying incident at school.
Oh, wow, I hadn't heard about that.
He was thrown down concrete stairs and actually hospitalized.
Oh, wow, that's awful. It really makes you wonder if those early experiences, those struggles, kind of fueled his relentless drive.
It's like that adversity forging strength almost.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at the guy now.
And speaking of influences, did you know he was a huge, total sci-fi nerd growing up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can really see that influence throughout his work.
I mean, The Lord of the Rings, the Foundation series, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, these weren't just, casual reads for him.
It's almost like he's trying to take those sci-fi concepts and, will them into existence.
Make them reality.
And let's not forget, this is a guy who taught himself programming at 10 years old
10! What?
and sold his first game, Blastar, for $500 when he was 12.
I was barely figuring out fractions at 12. Okay, clearly a very bright kid.
Hey.
And that drive obviously continued. He goes on to earn 2 degrees from the University of Pennsylvania.
Physics and economics.
Yep, a pretty impressive combo. But then there's this detail in the Wikipedia entry that I found pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
To help pay for tuition, he would host these massive house parties.
Really?
Yeah, huge ragers. Did you ever do anything that wild to make ends meet in college?
Not quite. I was more the ramen noodle and library type.
Me too, me too. Much less exciting. But speaking of hustling, this is where we see the real start of his entrepreneurial journey. He co-founds his first company, Zip2, with his brother Kimball.
And they were basically working around the clock coding all night in this tiny rented office.
Talk about dedication.
Right. And there's also a bit of, well, controversy surrounding this period. His immigration status at the time was kind of a gray area.
Oh, really?
A Washington Post expose even suggested he might have been working illegally while building the company.
Wow, that's a pretty risky move.
Yeah, definitely. But then again, risk-taking seems to be a theme we see over and over with Musk.
That leads us perfectly into PayPal, one of the giants of online payments, which, well, wasn't always a giant.
Nope. It started as X.com.
A name that some of his friends apparently thought sounded a bit too much like, a certain type of website.
Uh-huh. Right. They were worried people would accidentally end up somewhere they weren't expecting.
Oops, the early days of the internet, eh? But that journey, Exa.com, merging with Confinity, then Musk getting ousted as CEO, coming back, and then eventually getting replaced by Peter Thiel, that's a roller coaster.
That's startup life in a nutshell, right? But eventually, it all led to PayPal's massive success. And that success gave Musk the resources to really go after a lifelong dream: space travel. Which brings us to SpaceX.
All right, SpaceX. Now, this isn't just about launching rockets. This is about making space travel accessible and maybe one day colonizing Mars.
It's almost hard to grasp the level of ambition.
It really is, and it's another example of how his love of sci-fi is directly showing up in his work.
Trying to turn those childhood dreams into reality.
And then there's Starlink, this massive project to provide global internet access through a network of satellites.
Thousands of them.
It's incredible, but it's also attracted some criticism.
Mostly from astronomers who are concerned about light pollution and all that space junk.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, of course, there's that situation in September 2023 where Musk refused to allow Ukraine to use Starlink for an offensive.
Yeah, that one sparked a lot of debate about how much power he really has in global conflicts.
That's a very good point. Speaking of power, let's turn our attention to Tesla, the company that truly made electric vehicles mainstream.
They really disrupted the entire car industry.
Big time. And they didn't just make electric cars, they made electric cars cool. The Model S, the Model 3, then the Model Y, and that crazy Cybertruck.
They just keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
But it hasn't always been a smooth ride, right?
Well, Tesla's faced quite a bit of criticism too, mostly aimed at Musk's management style. The Wikipedia excerpts talk about micromanagement, setting unrealistic deadlines, just this constant pressure on employees.
There are even some pretty harsh descriptions from former employees, like being treated as ammunition, used and then discarded.
Oof, that's intense.
What do you make of that leadership style? Is it ultimately effective or is it, unsustainable?
Tough question. It's like there's this fine line between being a visionary leader and creating a toxic work environment.
And it seems like Musk walks that line pretty closely.
You could say that, yeah.
And this brings us to two ventures that, well, really exemplify that push the limits mentality. Neuralink and the Boring Company. Neuralink, with its goal of developing brain-computer interfaces, sounds like straight-up science fiction.
I mean, a monkey playing Pong with its mind. Come on.
It's wild, but that's what they're doing.
And they're aiming even higher than that. Think helping people with paralysis regain movement, restoring vision, even treating things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
It's almost like, are we witnessing the future of medicine?
It's possible, but
Yeah.
there are definitely ethical concerns, especially surrounding their animal testing practices.
Yeah, those are serious allegations that definitely need to be investigated thoroughly.
Absolutely. And then there's the Boring Company, which, in comparison to Neuralink, is focused on something a bit more grounded.
Literally.
Tunnels to solve traffic.
It's such a classic Musk solution, Bold, a bit out there.
A little quirky. Yeah.
Definitely quirky. And just like him, the Boring Company's projects have had some mixed results, some canceled, some completed, like that tunnel system beneath the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Even with all his resources and ambition, not every idea is a winner.
And now we arrive at what's probably the most talked about chapter in Musk's recent history, his acquisition of Twitter, which as of last year is now known as X.
It's been a wild ride, that's for sure.
It's like a digital age Shakespearean drama. I mean, it all started back in 2017 when he first expressed interest in the platform.
Questioning its commitment to free speech, apparently influenced by his ex-wife, Tallulah Riley, who urged him to fight back against what she called wokeism.
Strong opinions, for sure. And those motivations, well, combined with his growing frustration with Twitter's policies, all built up to his takeover bid in 2022.
Which was a whirlwind. Joining the board, the $43 billion offer, Twitter's poison pill defense.
Finally, he successfully takes over for about $44 billion.
And then, the chaos begins.
Mass layoffs, controversial policy changes, the whole Twitter files saga that was supposed to expose government censorship.
But then Twitter's own lawyers kind of pushed back on that narrative, didn't they?
Yeah, it shows how the same information can be spun in completely different ways. And then, of course, the rebranding to X last year. Oh, and let's not forget the constant stream of tweets that would just, send the internet into a frenzy.
He really knows how to get people talking.
And how has this all affected his image, would you say?
Well, some see him as this champion for free speech. Others as, well, a bit of a reckless provocateur.
Definitely polarizing.
Absolutely. And it's had a financial impact, too. X is worth almost 80% less than what he paid for it, according to Fidelity.
Wow. Even Elon Musk isn't immune to market forces.
It seems like no one is. But his whole Twitter or X saga also highlights his growing involvement in politics.
Yeah, which is what we're going to dive into next. Get ready for a world of political donations, controversial proposals, and very public feuds.
It's going to be a wild ride, folks. Stay with us. All right, so Elon Musk and politics. It's complicated.
Definitely not your typical political figure. I mean, his affiliations have been all over the place, supporting Democrats, then endorsing Republicans. He even became a big donor to those pro-Trump super PACs.
Those are political action committees that can, raise unlimited funds to influence elections.
Right. And then there was that whole thing in October 2024 with his $1 million giveaway to registered voters.
Oh, yeah, that didn't go over too well.
Got warnings from the Justice Department, even a lawsuit from the Philadelphia DA. It seems like even if his intentions were good, his attempts to influence the political process maybe crossed some lines.
It definitely shows how even someone like Musk, with all his resources and influence, can still run into trouble when you're dealing with the U.S. political system.
Speaking of complex political situations, there's also his relationship with China. He's got to walk a very fine line there, doesn't he?
For sure. Got to keep those relations good for Tesla. But then he also makes these statements that could be seen as critical of the Chinese government.
It's a delicate balance. And then there's his proposal for resolving the Taiwan situation. It's like he's trying to apply that same problem-solving approach he uses in business to these really complicated geopolitical issues.
like he did with his peace plan for Ukraine, which, well, didn't exactly go as planned.
Remember that Twitter poll he set up about the annexed areas of Ukraine?
Not exactly a hit in Kyiv.
And it apparently caused some tension with world leaders. I even read that he spoke directly with Putin before posting that peace plan, though Musk denies that.
It's amazing how much weight his words carry.
Yeah.
His actions can really have this ripple effect across the globe.
Whether he wants to or not, he's kind of become this, unofficial diplomat.
And then there are his opinions on COVID. Went from downplaying the pandemic to spreading misinformation, even defying lockdown orders.
I mean, remember when he called the whole coronavirus panic dumb?
Not exactly the most empathetic response.
Yeah, that was definitely controversial. And his skepticism about vaccines, he's even said he won't take any future vaccines, alienated some of his fans.
It seems like he's always pushing the limits, testing the boundaries.
And sometimes those tests backfire. Which brings us to maybe the most infamous example of his shoot-from-the-hip style, the whole feud with British diver Vernon Unsworth.
Oh yeah, the pedo guy incident.
Not his finest moment.
Even for Musk, that was pretty low.
Calling someone a pedophile on Twitter, I mean, come on.
It's a reminder that, well, words have consequences, even for someone as powerful as Elon Musk. That incident led to a defamation lawsuit.
Which he actually won.
Go figure.
Yeah.
But it really highlights how his whole Twitter or X presence has been this constant source of entertainment and controversy.
Memes, promoting his companies, making off-the-cuff remarks about world events. His tweets always grab attention.
It's like he treats the entire internet as his personal playground.
Which, can be fun. But it also raises questions about the responsibility that comes with having such a massive platform.
Especially when you consider how much influence he has on the financial markets.
Remember that whole thing with taking Tesla private at $420 a share?
The SEC was not happy about that one.
Yeah.
Led to a lawsuit, a settlement where he had to step down as Tesla's chairman.
It just shows how even a seemingly offhand tweet from Musk can have major real-world repercussions.
It's almost like he lives in this different reality, where the rules that apply to everyone else, they just don't apply to him.
It's really interesting because he's obviously a brilliant guy, a visionary entrepreneur.
But at the same time, he often seems to lack, self-awareness about how his actions might affect other people.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
Totally. He's this complicated mix of traits that have made him one of the most influential and controversial figures of our time.
So what does it all mean? What can we learn from this deep dive into the lesser-known side of Elon Musk?
It's clear that he's not just a tech genius or a business tycoon. He's a really complex individual.
With a huge range of interests, ambitions, and, flaws.
He can inspire people, he can frustrate people, sometimes all at the same time.
It's like a constant source of fascination. But it's also a reminder that even the most successful people are still human.
With all the same complexities and contradictions as everyone else.
And maybe that's what makes them so interesting. So where do we go from here? What happens next in the Elon Musk saga?
That is the million-dollar question. Only time will tell.
One thing's for sure, though. Whatever he does next, it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. I have a feeling we'll be revisiting this deep dive again in the future.
Yeah, there's always more to uncover. Always another layer to peel back when it comes to Elon Musk. But for now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's delve into one of his most ambitious and potentially transformative ventures, Neuralink.
The world of brain-computer interfaces.
This is where things could get really mind-bending. All right, Neuralink, brain-computer interfaces. This is where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, this is definitely next-level stuff.
It's simultaneously fascinating and kind of terrifying.
I get that. It does feel a bit like something straight out of the Matrix, doesn't it?
Right. So break it down for me. What is Neuralink actually trying to do?
Their goal is to create this, seamless connection between the human brain and computers.
So we're talking about controlling things with our thoughts, downloading information directly into our brains. I mean, is that where this is all headed?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, those are some of the long-term possibilities. But their initial focus is on medical applications.
Okay, so like what?
Helping people with paralysis regain movement, restoring vision, maybe even treating things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Wow, so they're actually taking science fiction and making it a medical reality? That's incredible. But how does it actually work?
They're developing these tiny, flexible electrodes, and these get implanted into the brain.
Into the brain.
Yeah, And then these electrodes, they can record and stimulate brain activity.
So it's like a two-way communication between the brain and the computer.
Exactly. And these electrodes, they're incredibly smaller than a grain of rice.
Really? That small?
Even smaller. And they use this robotic system to implant them.
So we're talking about like robots performing brain surgery?
Pretty much. It's wild.
Yeah.
But it shows how advanced the technology is.
It's pretty impressive. But also, I gotta admit, a little unnerving.
I hear you. And of course, with any groundbreaking technology like this, there are risks.
And ethical considerations, especially when you're talking about the human brain. I mean, we already mentioned those allegations of animal cruelty related to their testing.
Right, and those are being investigated. That's a really important conversation to have, because even if this technology has amazing potential, you have to weigh that against the potential harm during development.
And it's not just animal welfare. There are bigger questions about, like, what does this mean for privacy? What if our thoughts are accessible to technology? Could it be used for things like surveillance or even mind control?
It's definitely a bit of a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
And it's crucial that Neuralink and any other company working on this type of technology proceeds ethically and responsibly.
Because the last thing we want is some dystopian future where our minds are being controlled by corporations or governments.
Exactly. And, it's interesting to think about all of this in the context of Elon Musk's personality and how that's kind of played out on Twitter or, well, X now.
He's definitely developed a reputation for being, well, let's just say outspoken.
Outspoken, provocative, sometimes even reckless.
I mean, there have been so many headline-grabbing moments. Calling that British diver a PO guy, smoking weed with Joe Rogan on a live stream, that whole taking Tesla private tweet that got him in trouble with the SEC.
It's just been this nonstop stream of attention, both good and bad.
His fans see him as a visionary genius who's not afraid to say what he thinks. His detractors see him as this narcissistic bully who's more interested in self-promotion than actually making a difference.
And his whole Twitter or X presence has definitely become a lot more political too. He's gone from supporting Democrats to endorsing Republicans, donating to those pro-Trump super PACs.
It's a good reminder that even the most wealthy and powerful people are still influenced by their own personal beliefs. And those beliefs can have a huge impact on the world.
No doubt about that. So it all circles back to the question, what is Elon Musk ultimately trying to achieve? What kind of legacy is he trying to build?
Is it saving humanity by colonizing Mars, revolutionizing transportation with things like the Hyperloop and electric vehicles, enhancing our capabilities with Neuralink, or something else entirely?
Maybe it's a mix of all of those things. Maybe even he doesn't know yet.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
One thing's for sure, though. Elon Musk is a force to be reckoned with, and his impact is going to be felt for a long, long time.
Well, there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into Elon Musk has taken us from his childhood in South Africa to ventures in space, electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, and even the human brain.
We've covered a lot of ground. Ambition, innovation, controversy.
And a constant desire to push the boundaries.
As always, we encourage you to check out the source material, do your own research, and form your own opinions.
Because ultimately, understanding Elon Musk is, in a way, understanding the forces that are shaping our world right now.
Technology, business, politics, even human ambition itself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with a new topic and a whole new mountain of source material to explore.
Until then, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep diving deep.